Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. Thanks for being with me on your Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, or really, since it's a podcast, whenever you happen to be listening to this. Let's just jump right into it. First of all, I'd like to thank my sponsors. That's Mortgage Financial Services here in Texarkana, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock. That's churchontherock.org. And hey, without these people and organizations, this show wouldn't be able to look like it does in this form. So I appreciate them immensely. Okay, it's back to school day here in Texas, and I put out a short on Facebook and on YouTube. I'll probably get eaten alive for it. If you want to, go check that out. I always think it's funny the way teachers act for the first 2 weeks that they go back to school, like it's the end of the world. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, and all these kids, and we have to go do our job, while the rest of us are just, we're just getting it all year round. And I understand that's what we've chosen to do, and that's what they've chosen to do. And look, I understand that we need teachers and administrators. So I'm not really trying to be disparaging. I just get tired of hearing about it. And so there we go. And look, I hope God moves on each teacher and administrator. And if they don't know him, I really hope he moves on them. But if they do, I hope he shows children that will never see him any other way through them. So I understand it's an important job. Also, I'm allowed to get frustrated on it, and you're allowed to think I'm stupid for thinking that. So we can all just have our own thoughts on it. And there you go. Hey, let's jump in. This is from Yahoo News, and it's really from Reuters. Stanford University lays off over 360 employees, citing Trump policies. What policies could this be that's causing universities to lay off employees? Could it be refusal to limit the pro-Palestine protests? Give me 1 second. Had to go wrestle a bear. Could it be refusal to limit the pro-Palestine protest? Could it be refusal to follow the laws regarding men and women's bathrooms? Well, if those are the laws and you're getting federal funding and the people have voted against, then you don't get our money. So Stanford has laid off that, and it looks like there's $330 million in funding frozen to the University of California last week, alleging they failed to prevent a hostile environment for Jewish and Israeli students. So all of this, we don't have to pay for you to start hate of groups of people. I think we should defund all of the universities federally if you can make it, which a lot of them can have billions of dollars. Then go make it. And here, and look, I'm somewhat critical of some of these institutions, not just institutions of higher learning, but anything associated with the government, right? Because anytime the government gets involved, everything gets more expensive. If you take away all this government funding, what will these universities do? I believe they would make it to where everyone else could afford them easier. Maybe not some of the more prestigious ones that don't have to, right? But if it's harder for people to pay for it, either you go away or you make it more affordable. If you want cheaper education, take government funding out of it. And I know what a crazy, but it's that way on everything. Just think about all the government waste that you hear about. Just even what Doge has done so far. By the way, did you hear that the big balls guy from Doge got beaten up for taking up for a lady in Washington, D.C.? A group of youths were hassling this girl and whatever in the safe, clean streets of Washington, D.C., and Big Balls went in there and got the hell beat out of him standing up for this girl. That's what a man does. Good job, sir. Anyway, back to what I was saying. You take government out of a lot of these things, and you're not just getting that constant money. Prices go down. But as for these education institutions, stop espousing hateful American stuff. Stop going against what the people want. Or continue and just don't get our money. Trump's not the bad guy for this. He's just saying, hey, the people don't want this. So if you're going to do these things, we're not going to pay for it. It's just that simple. I see no controversy. Of course, I've been known to think some wild things, so there's that. All right, let's keep going. From the AP and more so from DC Drano on X.com. The Biden administration Biden administration, that's what this is a picture of. Biden administration loaned $6.6 billion with a B dollars to EV maker Rivian to build a Georgia factory. Trump now canceled the EV credits. And now they're losing $41,000 per car per vehicle that they create. Now, I've seen some Rivians. I know some people with Rivians, and they look cool. And if you can afford to go buy it, go buy it. If you want a battery-operated car, go get you one. I've got people in my family that have a Tesla, and it's awesome. It's fun. And then in the part of Texas they live in, it doesn't work for where I am, but in the part of Texas I live in, that they live in, they have deregulated power. And so not only can they have their Tesla, they can have their Tesla charger, and they can buy their power from Tesla, their electricity, and then Tesla won't charge them for any power used to charge the car at night. How cool is that? Because the car obviously is a computer and can tell the power company how much power it's taken in. I think that's awesome. And if you can afford to have all that, go do that. But I don't need the EV buying your Tesla. I don't need the government credits buying your Tesla. Just like the education. It's the same concept. I don't need my money going to buy your Rivian or your Tesla or your whatever. If you want it, go get it. Go buy that thing. Anyway, I guess we just hit a common trend here. Now, here's something we all knew was happening during the Biden administration, or at least maybe we didn't. Maybe this was a conspiracy that just turns out to be true. I'll give you that, because that's what happens to most things that we conservatives think are here or know. And we're just told it's a conspiracy, and then when it comes out, it's like, oh, this happened, and we're like, we told you that 5 years ago. This is from Nick Sorter on X.com. Breaking: the Biden regime pressured Chase Bank and Bank of America to debank Trump after he left office. Sources tell the New York Post. We knew there were businesses that got debanked. We knew of things around the country where they all of a sudden their accounts got closed and they were told to come get their check and to transfer their money because they were conservative. We knew this was happening. This is what an authoritarian does, right? They leave the state when they don't get their way. They gerrymander every other state in the country, but get mad when you try to make a correction in Texas. They try to take your ability to bank away. This is what happens. The almighty government. This is what happens when you worship at its altar. We've given to, like Clark said the other day when he was on here. Maybe we need to burn this thing down. Because that's what our Declaration of Independence says we can do. We're able to throw off the old. It's just frustrating. Then there's this. And I just need to know how you all feel about this. You can email me at zachratliffshow@gmail.com. This is from The Blaze, which, I have a subscription to. Not because I get a government credit, but because I want one. Democrat Representative Delia Ramirez at a summit in Mexico City. Now, let's start there. I see no reason or very little reason for representatives and senators to travel overseas and use their official capacity. Now, obviously, I'm not invited to all the meetings. There may be some, but I think they should be limited. We have a State Department, a United States State Department. Also, your states have secretaries of state. The State Department represents the state when the president isn't. Right? That's the Secretary of State's job. Now, when the president comes into a country, obviously he supersedes our Secretary of State. But there's a whole department that is to represent our country. We don't need every representative because they're U.S. representative. Look, you've seen some of these people, right? Yeah, and you've heard, like, the one guy believed if too much of a population got on one side of an island, that it would flip over, so you had to spread the population out. Right? I don't know how some of these people got elected. I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I'm more intelligent than a lot of them up there. I don't have your, I never, what I'm trying to say is I don't think an island's going to flip over, right? So I don't even know how these people get elected, other than by lies and money, which is, the political. Anyway, Delia Ramirez goes to a summit in Mexico City, and she's speaking. Once again, I don't agree with that. But she tells the summit in Mexico City while speaking in Spanish, which is fine. You're when in Rome. I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. Cut it right there. That statement alone should disqualify you from being a representative of the United States. You take an oath to defend the Constitution. Yet you're going to value Guatemala above the United States. Same with Ilhan Omar. She represents Somalia first. She said it. And I know we get a lot of grief here in Texas about, I even did it while I was traveling in Kentucky a week or two ago. And where are you from? I'll just say Texas. If you really want to know more, where in Texas? Okay, I'll tell you. But we're United States citizens first. Now, some Texans are going to argue with this. I'm going to get some messages over this. Then you're a Texan. Really, here's my order. Number one thing, Christian. Follower of Jesus, not secular. I believe in the gospel. I believe that Jesus is Lord, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Okay? After that, then I identify as a dad and a son. Then I identify as a conservative. Then I identify as an American and a Texan, and so on. White cis male for some of you. Anyway. But for a representative of the United States to go to another country and say they represent Guatemala first and then the United States, and for everybody, oh, yay. No. Ought to throw them out. Because that's the problem. We need people that represent us. Now, she may represent her constituents, But her number one job, her oath, is to represent and to protect the Constitution of the United States of America. If you can't get that right, you don't have the opportunity to represent anyone else that does. Now, who am I, right? Maybe I'm way wrong. But if I am, this is one of those battles I'm willing to fight. You're always told to pick your battle, and pick your battles. Pick your battles. Don't say anything. Pick your battles. Then you look back through life and you say, I've never fought a battle that meant anything because I was waiting to pick the right one. Now, maybe I'm too far on the other side. I've picked a lot of battles. And then I look back, I should have just shut up and gone on about my day. My life would have been easier had I not chosen so many battles. That is 100% a fact. However, I'm a fighter, baby. And I don't always pick the right side. But I tell you what side I do pick. I pick the side of Jesus, and I pick the side of the United States Constitution. And I don't think that a woman who doesn't should be able to represent us. Golly. That just gets all over me. Let's go to a good story, though. TheChristianPost.com. If you're of my age, 39, I'll be 40 this year. We remember the show Kenan and Kel on Nickelodeon. Well, Kel Mitchell, the opposite, not Kenan. Kenan's the one, on Saturday Night Live for 17,000 years. Kel Mitchell, this is from ChristianPost.com, baptizes his daughter in tears of joy. And that's part of his story, right? If you go back and read about this guy and watch about this guy, he's a Christian. That's why he got out of Hollywood for a while. What I've read leads you to believe. Good for him. Good for someone who made goofy movies. Just made, my daughter likes the Good Burger too, right? She thinks it's hilarious. Good for him for taking a stand, because he's going to catch so much flack from people that does what he does in his industry. And let me tell you, as someone that had the opportunity, I had the opportunity to baptize my own daughter, and it's an amazing feeling to watch them profess their faith, to be able to dunk them and bring them up. It's life-changing to do that. I've killed more deer than I care than I can remember, honestly. I've killed squirrels and caught fish. The song, I'm more rednecker than you. Okay? I've been blessed in my life. I've been to the top of the Eiffel Tower, and I've stood on top of the Rocky Mountains when the sun came up while I was holding my horse. I've lived a full life, and God has blessed me with doing that. But one of the greatest days of my life was when I dunked that little girl under the water, and she came up. She said, I'm doing this because I love Jesus. Anyway, good for Kel. Good for him for taking a stand, for showing his faith publicly. All right. Let's move on. It turns out that CAIR, C-A-I-R, this is according to Tom Cotton. Gotta give old Tom a lot of headache here, but CAIR, and I don't remember, but it's Islamic Relations is what it stands for. Here's a tweet from Tom, or an X post from Tom Cotton. CAIR purports to be a civil rights organization that protects the rights of American Muslims, but evidence confirms that CAIR National has deep ties to, get ready, no one's gonna see this coming, I promise. Hold on to your dress, boys, here it comes. I've been asked, or I've asked because it has deep ties to terrorist organizations. Religion of peace. No one would have I know. Catch your breath. No one thought that was going to happen. No one knew that CAIR, an organization that represents Muslims, would donate to terrorist organizations. I know, crazy thing. You can go see Tom Cotton's letter to the IRS on his Twitter feed or X feed or whatever you want to call it. Look, if you don't want to be labeled a terrorist, stop doing terrorist things. If I didn't want to be labeled a Christian, I would stop talking about Christian things and going to Christian places. It's just, gosh dang. Okay, the Daily Caller News Foundation. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, she's just, from the fires to everything else, she hasn't looked good for what she's done. Anyway, this is according to the Daily Caller News Foundation. Karen Bass raked in cash from, I know, this is going to be hard to believe, when you come from the state of Dianne Feinstein, or Feinstein, however you say it, whose driver for 20 years was a Chinese spy. From the state of Eric Swalwell, who was sleeping, having an affair with a Chinese spy. You're never going to believe who was giving cash to Karen Bass's, to Karen Bass. Well, it was Chinese intelligence-tied bankers. Of course, then she went on to, it says, the Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass's transition advisory team enlisted 2 Chinese intelligence-tied bankers who fundraised for her and a nonprofit she helps lead. And then she appointed them to her transition team. Yeah, because we're not. The Chinese are at war with us, and we refuse to acknowledge that, or we acknowledge it by selling out and just dealing with them anyway. It's just amazing. And then here is the most outrageous story of the day. And I said this on the radio all the time, and I'll say it now. If we can't do one thing through this platform, it's let's raise awareness to protect our children. Being a dad's the greatest honor I've ever had. I'm not raising a child, I'm trying to raise a successful adult. But I need her to stay a child as long as she can. DailyCallerNewsFoundation.org. Blue states are suing to block the Trump administration from cracking down on child mutilation. A coalition of over a dozen blue states is suing the Trump administration in an attempt to block federal policies aimed at curbing transgender medical interventions for minors. Why would you do that to your kids? If you're an adult and you want to do what you want to do, and you don't need a government to pay for it. But if you're an adult and you want to have a sex change, go do that. If you can pay for it, I don't want to have to pay for it. Go transition. Go live your life, or whatever they say. I don't care. Don't make me have to pay for it. Don't make my church have to recognize it. And don't tell me I'm hateful for not liking it. Other than that, you're free to do what you want to do. But when you start touching kids, why does everything target kids? Everything. Oh, we can't get rid of abortion. It's a woman's right to choose to kill her kid. Now, if you've had an abortion, I pray for you, and it's not a judgmental tone. But everything's after our kids. Oh, we can't stop this sex change for minors. Whoa. There's a lot of hormones and figuring out life you've got to do past 18, if you ask me. But you got to figure it out. But it's, here's an example I had a few years ago. My daughter was probably seven-ish at the time. And her and her friends were, I still am blessed enough to live in a neighborhood where kids ride bikes in the streets and the sidewalks. And, we don't have sidewalks, driveways. And they would ride in, into my driveway, and I was sitting there watching them play. And one would say, "Hey, I'm a cat." as little girls do. And then she came back and said, I'm a police officer. I'm a boy. She said, I'm a motorcycle. So at that point, according to these people, I should have taken her to the hospital and said, I need this girl to be a boy cat motorcycle cop. And whatever surgery that has to happen, I don't know if it's some Terminator type system you can hook her up with. I don't know what it is, but this child believes she's this thing, and I just want to affirm it. Instead, I said, you sure are being silly today. What if you're a watermelon? So she rolled down my driveway and said, I'm a watermelon. That's the absurdity of this. Yeah, okay, let your kid make believe, but then bring them back to reality. Hey, you're being silly today. It's amazing to me that we allow this. It's amazing to me that as a society, we've said, okay, harm our children. I don't think we have. I think we're being molded and pushed into it because there's evil in the world. But we have to protect our kids. And I think Donald Trump's doing it. And I'm proud. I'm proud to have an administration that'll stand up against such foolishness. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I've got things to do, as I'm sure you all do as well. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today. Remember, there's hope in Jesus, so don't be hopeless when you leave here. And we'll be back. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Have a good day.